Hi, I'm Terry Wood from PokerRailbird.com, and welcome to the first video in our brand new series, Poker Player Styles of Play. Over the next few weeks, we're going to break down the four major styles of poker players: loose passive, loose aggressive, tight passive, and tight aggressive. And to top it off, we'll take a deep dive into two unique and extreme styles, the nit and the maniac. Why does this matter? Because identifying and adapting to different player styles can be the difference between winning and losing. Each style comes with its own strengths, weaknesses, and telltale patterns that you can learn to recognize and exploit. In this video, we're focusing on the loose passive player, one of the most common and easiest styles to beat, especially in lower stakes games. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the series. Let's dive in. Loose passive players are some of the easiest opponents to identify and exploit. They're common, especially at lower stakes games, and their style is defined by predictability and a lack of aggression. Let's break down the key characteristics of this player type. 1. Plays a wide range of hands. The first thing you'll notice is their tendency to play a wide range of hands. Loose passive players enter the pot with just about anything: seated connectors, weak aces, even low-value hands that more disciplined players would fold. They're here to see flops and stay involved in the action. This wide range can make them unpredictable pre-flop, but it also means they're frequently dominated by stronger hands post-flop. Their approach is more about being part of the action than playing to win. 2. Reluctance to bet or raise. Despite their loose pre-flop tendencies, their passivity comes into play post-flop. Loose passive players rarely bet or raise, they prefer to call or check. This lack of aggression allows opponents to control the pot and dictate the action. You'll often see them miss opportunities to maximize value with strong hands because they're unwilling to put chips in aggressively. This hesitation makes them vulnerable to more assertive players. 3. Chasing draws. Loose passive players are notorious for chasing draws, even when the odds don't justify it. They'll pay to see another card with the hope of hitting a straight or flush, but over time, these calls add up to significant losses. Remember, they're not thinking about pot odds or expected value. They're focused on the potential to hit their draw, regardless of the math. This tendency is something you can exploit by sizing your bets appropriately. 4. Predictable patterns. Loose passive players are easy to read. Their lack of aggression means that when they call, they're often on a draw or holding a weak hand. And if they suddenly start betting or raising, it's a strong signal that they've hit something significant. Keep an eye on their patterns. Since they rarely bluff, their actions often tell a clear story. This predictability is one of their biggest weaknesses. 5. Social focus. For many loose passive players, poker is more of a social activity than a competitive game. They enjoy the camaraderie and the fun of being involved in every hand. Winning isn't necessarily their priority. This mindset is why they're so common at lower stakes games. While they might be pleasant to play with, their lack of focus on strategy makes them easy targets for more skilled players. Now that we've covered the key characteristics of loose passive players, you can start identifying them at your tables. Identifying loose passive players at the table is a critical skill for any serious poker player. These players have telltale signs that make them stand out, and recognizing them early allows you to adjust your strategy to exploit their weaknesses. Let's look at the key signals that reveal a loose passive player. If someone at your table seems to be involved in nearly every hand, calling instead of betting or raising chances, are you found a loose passive player. Keep track of their starting hands to confirm this pattern. Watch how they react to bets from aggressive players. Do they just call, even when the board suggests they might have hit? This reluctance to take the lead in a hand is a hallmark of the loose passive style. Pay attention to how often they're calling on wet boards. If you notice a player consistently chasing draws, you've likely identified a loose passive opponent. While there's nothing wrong with enjoying the social aspects of poker, this mindset often correlates with a lack of strategic focus. If someone seems more interested in conversation than the game, they're likely playing a loose passive style. Think of it as the lunch is served moment. When the regulars are thrilled to see a player, it usually means they've identified them as a consistent loser, someone who's easy to exploit. By combining these signals, frequent calling, reluctance to raise, chasing draws, social behavior, and the reactions of other players, you can quickly spot loose passive players at your table. Recognizing them early gives you a significant edge. In the next section, we'll discuss how to adjust your strategy to capitalize on their weaknesses and maximize your profits. Now that you can recognize loose passive players at the table, let's talk about how to adjust your strategy to exploit their tendencies. Remember, these players are among the easiest to profit from, but only if you know how to approach them effectively. Here are some key adjustments to maximize your advantage. 1. Value bet aggressively. Loose passive players love to call. They're often curious to see what you have, and their tendency to chase hands means they'll pay you off with weaker holdings. Use this to your advantage by value betting aggressively. When you have a strong hand, don't be afraid to bet big. These players are unlikely to fold, so you can extract maximum value from them. Just be mindful of the board texture. If it gets too dangerous, you may want to proceed with caution. 2. Avoid bluffing. Bluffing loose passive players is a bad idea. Their tendency to call with weak hands makes them resistant to folding, even in situations where it's clear they should. Instead of bluffing, focus on straightforward, value-driven poker. Save your bluffs for players who are more likely to fold under pressure. 3. Punish their draws. Loose passive players love chasing draws, even when the pot odds don't justify it. Punish them by betting large enough to deny them the correct odds to continue. For example, if the pot is $100 and you bet $50 into the pot, they're getting 3 to 1 pot odds if they call. If their draw has only a 20% chance of completing, they should fold, but they often won't. Take advantage of this by sizing your bets to make their calls mathematically unsound. 4. Play strong premium hands. Against loose passive players, there's no need to get fancy. Stick to strong premium hands that dominate their wide range. This reduces your risk and increases the likelihood of winning big pots. Hands like high pocket pairs, suited connectors, and strong Broadway cards will perform well against their loose range. Remember, you don't need to outplay them, you just need to outlast them with solid hands. 5. Be observant and patient. Loose passive players are predictable, but you still need to stay alert for any changes in their behavior. If they suddenly start betting or raising, take it seriously. They're likely holding a monster hand. Patience is key. Let them make the mistakes while you wait for the right spots to capitalize. Don't let their constant calling frustrate you into making rash decisions. Adjusting your strategy against loose passive players is all about playing straightforward, value-focused poker. These players will pay you off when you have strong hands and chase when they shouldn't. By staying disciplined and exploiting their tendencies, you can turn their weaknesses into your profit. If you've recognized yourself as a loose passive player, don't worry, you're not alone. Many players start with the style because it feels comfortable, avoids conflict, and allows them to enjoy the social side of the game. But here's the reality. The loose passive style is the least profitable in poker. To improve, you need to make some key adjustments. Let's break it down. The first step to improving is acknowledging that the loose passive style simply doesn't work long-term. If you don't change, you're guaranteeing losses. Poker rewards patience and aggression, two traits that this style lacks. The good news is that recognizing this is the first step toward becoming a stronger player. Ask yourself, why do you play this style? Are you playing to socialize, avoid confrontation, or simply because it's more comfortable? Understanding your motives can help you decide whether you want to change your approach or continue playing for enjoyment without worrying about winning. Tightening your starting hand range is one of the most critical adjustments a loose passive player can make to improve their game. Your decision to enter a hand shapes your overall strategy and is often the difference between long-term profitability and consistent losses. Let's break this down into actionable steps. Every poker hand begins with a decision. Should I play this hand or fold? Starting hand selection is rooted in hand probabilities, how likely your hand is to improve on the flop and beyond. Playing too many weak hands leads to post-flop situations where you're dominated, making it difficult to win the pot. Your position at the table significantly impacts which hands you should play. From early positions like the small blind or under the gun, focus on premium hands, pairs like aces, kings, and queens, and high-value connectors like ace-king suited. As your position improves, you can slightly widen your range to include hands like middle pairs, suited connectors, and suited aces. However, even in late position, avoid playing highly improbable hands like unsuited, unconnected low cards. These hands may seem tempting, but are often costly in the long run. Key adjustments. 1. Stick to strong hands pre-flop. Tightening your range reduces variability and ensures you're entering pots with stronger hands. 2. Adapt to table dynamics. If the table is overly aggressive, consider tightening your range even further. If opponents are passive, you can widen your range slightly to capitalize on their weaknesses. 3. Be disciplined. Fold hands that fall outside your range, even if they look good or you're tempted to play for the action. By mastering starting hand selection and understanding its connection to position and probabilities, you'll establish a solid foundation for more profitable play. Step 4. Add aggression to your game. Start incorporating aggression into your game by betting and raising with your strong hands instead of just calling. This puts pressure on your opponents and allows you to take control of the pot. Over time, you can expand this aggression to semi-bluffs and other strategic moves. Think of aggression as a tool that forces your opponents to make tough decisions and prevents them from exploiting your predictability. Step 5. Study the game. Improvement starts with education. Study books, articles, and videos that focus on poker strategy. At pokerrailbird.com, we offer a wealth of resources, including detailed guides on hand selection, pot odds, and psychological tactics. Compare what you learned to your current style and identify areas for growth. Step 6. Focus on decision-making over results. Shift your mindset from winning pots to making good decisions. Even if you fold a lot, those folds are profitable if they save you from bad situations. Focus on long-term success rather than short-term results. Step 7. Set goals for improvement. Set specific, achievable goals for each session. For example, aim to play fewer hands, bet more often, or avoid calling with weak draws. Tracking your progress will keep you motivated and focused. Step 8. Get feedback from other players. Talk to more experienced players or join a poker forum to share your hands and get feedback. Honest input from others can highlight blind spots in your game and accelerate your improvement. Step 9. Mastering patience. We saved patience for last, as it is one of the most undervalued skills in poker, yet it's a cornerstone of long-term success. Mastering patience means not only waiting for the right hands to play, but also using your time wisely when you're not in a hand. By practicing patience, you'll find yourself folding a good portion of the time. That downtime is a golden opportunity. Here at pokerrailbird.com, we don't rely on rigid hand range charts or prescriptive rules. Instead, we emphasize adapting to the game and focusing on strategic observation. While you're not in a hand, don't waste time texting, scrolling through social media, or watching TV. Instead, make a conscious effort to study the game and your opponents. Watch for tells, betting patterns, and positional tendencies. What hands do your opponents play, and how do they react under pressure? Consider taking a notebook and pen to the table. Document your insights, patterns, or any key observations. Some days, you may jot down plenty of notes. Other days, only a few. Either way, the act of paying close attention and documenting your findings will deepen your understanding of the game. You'd be amazed at how much you can learn by staying engaged even when you're not directly involved in a hand. Patience doesn't just improve your decision-making, it sharpens your ability to read the table, recognize opportunities, and avoid unnecessary risks. Over time, this discipline will help you transition from reacting impulsively to playing with deliberate strategy and confidence. Practical steps to develop patience. 1. Understand the long game. Recognize that poker is a marathon, not a sprint. Focus on making the right decisions rather than chasing short-term results. 2. Embrace selective play. Folding is not a failure, it's a strategic choice. Only engage in hands that align with your calculated range and position. 3. Take time to reflect. Use quiet moments at the table to observe your opponents, evaluate table dynamics, and prepare for the next opportunity. For a deeper dive into patience and its role in poker, check out these articles on pokerrailbird.com. Patience in poker, the key to winning. Mindfulness in poker, stay focused and sharp. Patience not only improves your strategic decision-making, but also your mental resilience. It helps you stay calm under pressure, avoid tilt, and consistently execute a winning strategy. Changing your style won't happen overnight, but every small adjustment brings you closer to becoming a winning player. If you're a loose passive player, the good news is that the path to improvement is clear. Tighten up, get aggressive, and study the game. Today, we've taken a deep dive into the loose passive player style, exploring their tendencies, weaknesses, and how you can effectively exploit them at the table. We've also discussed the importance of self-awareness. If you identify with the loose passive style, it's not the end of your poker journey. The key is understanding where you are now and committing to improving step by step. Remember, poker is not just about the cards, it's about decisions. Loose passive players are common, particularly at lower stakes games, and represent a significant opportunity for those who recognize their patterns and capitalize on them. If you're facing a loose passive player, value bet aggressively, avoid unnecessary bluffs, and make them pay for chasing those draws. And if you're watching this and realize you might be playing in a loose passive style yourself, don't worry, you can change. Start by tightening your starting hand range, incorporating aggression into your play, and practicing patience. Most importantly, use your time at the table wisely to study and learn. For more in-depth resources, head to pokerrailbird.com. You'll find articles like Patience in Poker and Mindfulness in Poker, both designed to help you sharpen your game. And if you're ready to test your knowledge, don't forget to take our quizzes and join our forum discussions to engage with a community of passionate poker players. This video is part 1 of a 5-part series on poker player styles. Next up, we'll cover the loose aggressive player, one of the most challenging styles to face at the table. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. I'm Terry Wood from pokerrailbird.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the tables.